I am Prometheus, and you are just a god.
What's going on, you Cypher mains? Today I have a VOD review going over NIP versus Vitality. I thought this match is really interesting because JD for NIP plays a really good Cypher. Drops a 30 bomb this game, went into double OT, and I thought it was a game worth going over because it's funny because a lot of people think like, oh, Killjoy's not good on Breeze because her ult is kind of doggo doo-doo, and her alarm bot doesn't cover a lot of area, neither does her turret. When it's funny because Sentinels uses her. Now we have another team that's using Cypher, and people don't think Cypher's that good because people say that his tripwires don't cover a lot of ground. Well, now we have a pro team running a Cypher, and yeah, I think both of them can work on this map, and I think today we're going to go over why Cypher can work on Breeze as opposed to Killjoy. So pistol round starting, you're going to see a lot of these rounds that JD is going to start off with his camera up high in this wall. And the reason why this is so good is because he can put this down before the buy barrier starts, and he's looking right at them, right? So if somebody's holding this hallway area, he can tag them, and this forces him actually to push off the double doors there because they're flashing, and both these walls are wall bangable, so if they just stand there, they're going to take a bunch of damage. So this is really good for info, and if nobody's there, they know, hey, nobody's watching hallway, and he can keep flashing this camera until they destroy it. And this is really high up. This is kind of an awkward camera to destroy, which I think is really cool. And this tripwire here watches the flank. If you know that it's here, you can sort of kind of tell that they're going to lean towards A. On this pistol round, if I play this out, you'll see lean towards A after showing a little bit of mid aggression. So that's really interesting. And one last thing I want to talk about, the Cypher versus Killjoy argument, is that the util sort of serves the same purpose, except I think Cypher's ult is a lot better. His is 6 ult points versus Killjoy's, which is 7. And on a map like Breeze where everybody's so spread out, I think that his information ult is super valuable. So yeah, this is what his default is going to look like most rounds with this camera and usually this trip. So on to the next round. All right, so I'm taking us over to round 3, and something I want to point out is that yeah, he's running the same default here, but JD, something that you're going to see a lot throughout this game and these rounds I'm going to take you through is that he does a very good job of ratting in and out of his cages here. His cages are really good because they block off important sight lines, right? So he uses it to peek back sight, he uses it to rat around the pyramids here, making his movement like very unpredictable. He's able to make his way back sight, and he works a few kills, and NIP ends up winning this round. But you'll see the way he uses his cages a lot better in future rounds, but that's something I wanted to point out. All right, so I'm taking us over to round 4. This ends up being a B execute. It's default tripwire. But the cool thing about this round is that they have the Viper wall going up this side of the wall here, right? As they're getting ready to execute, Sky blasts their cabbages. If you notice, as the round proceeds, the cabbages go all the way towards nest, towards backside, and all that good stuff, right? So with this Viper wall, something that I don't see people do in ranked or in a lot of games a lot of the time is that they'll never push past this Viper wall, which makes sense. You don't want to push past this boundary, this safe zone or whatever, and risk your life. But in this situation, I think JD notices that the cabbage doesn't go here, and it never went through elbow. So if anybody was in this area, it would have went this way before it went, over here. So I think he pushes the smoke knowing that there's going to be 2 guys there. Like he knows that because the cabbage went that way, and I don't think these 2 guys expected JD to push through the smoke like a psychopath. So some people might say like, oh, he's correct. Oh, he's just an aggressive Cypher main. Well, not necessarily. I think it was more of a calculated risk type thing because he knew where they were at. So yeah, Sky ult's really good here, and JD used it to his advantage. So on to the next round. All right, so round 7 is really interesting because if you watch the beginning of the round, NIP defaults towards A, and they're trying to do a little bit of an A split, and Cypher has his camera up here, and he pings the guy down hallway, but the camera gets broken, whatever. He throws his tripwire down hallway to make sure they can't push hallway, and then the team, for some reason, decides to work back towards B, which is perfectly fine. Now, the interesting is that NIP waits outside of B main before starting their execute, and some people might be asking why. Well, the Viper orb was down, so they could have gone then. But Cypher didn't have his camera recharged, and I don't know if that was intentional, but as soon as his camera goes down, that's when the execute starts, and the orb is still up. They didn't wait for the Viper's stuff to go down, so what were they waiting for? They were probably waiting for Cypher's camera. Now, why is this? Like, why did they do this? Well, because, watch, this is really important. Currently it's a 4v5. One gets right through a smoke, Viper mollies and all that. It's kind of like a battlefield going on right now. It's a 5v3. JD gets a nasty kill by hiding on this angle, which is a really good angle, by the way. I love that angle. Now, right there, you saw him flash his camera to check for the flank. Now, if you're a really good Cypher main, you don't need your tripwires to watch flank. You flash your camera every now and then to make sure nobody's pushing you from that angle. So if you watch, he flashes, he sees this guy, and he thinks there might be one other person with him, which makes sense. It's a 4v3. So as soon as this guy ults, or Sky flashes, he knows that they're already behind him, so he's already pre-aiming towards that area, like this. And some people might say, like, oh, he just got lucky. He saw the flash. He just sprayed and got a few kills. Well, that's not necessarily true, because he knew that they were coming from that way. He pre-aims towards that area, and he got rewarded for it. He knows that two were going to be behind him. And then I heard this caster says that he heard a sound cue that Omen was in that area. I don't know if that's true, but if that was really well played by JD. And that's really how you watch flanks. He got 2 kills there, and it gave him the man advantage, and one of his teammates got a kill, and they end up winning this round. So that's how you watch flanks, folks. Did a really good job there. All right, very briefly, I want to talk about how Cypher, his util is really good here. So earlier in the round, the teammates get a few kills in mid. He ults the body. He knows that the Sova was in this area and the other agent was in this area. I believe it was their Viper ret, and it allows them to take A for pretty free, right? So they use the cage to block off the sight line here, as you just saw a second ago, and that camera's on the wall. Vac right now is getting pinged like an animal. And I just want to emphasize, Cypher's camera is really good. Like, its pings are really good because it takes you out of the fight for like a minute, right? But notice if you get pinged, like in 90% of this map, you're gonna get screwed. Like, the only reason why Rhyme wins this fight is because if you rewind previously in the round, okay, this is the execute I was talking about. They use the Cypher ult. They notice that there's nobody on A. Sova could be watching, which he was, so the cage is off, which allows them to get on the site a lot easier. Vac just gets a really good kill there. The camera's on this wall, tags him, right? Yeah, Vac gets another kill while he's getting pinged, but if he's not pinged here, they probably lose that round. Not probably lose it, but it's a much harder round to win. And Cypher's camera's just really good, and that was a really good round to demonstrate that. So on to the next one. All right, this round I want to talk about JD's. Okay, he has a really big round. He has a really big round this round. It's a 2v5. This should be virtually unwinnable. He has a tripwire going here. Nobody could be flanking him. He has a camera here, which spots out top nest, right? So he knows that there's somebody in nest area. He just sees him. He tries to ping him. This isolates a 1v1, and that's something that Cypher's camera is really good at, isolating 1v1s, because it gathers you information, just like Sova's kit does for him. I don't know what you do with this. Let's watch that again. So he cages. After he gets the kill on the Sova, he decides to cage the crosshair and decides to do a little parkour action and isolate a 1v1 and mid. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, what is this circus clown fiesta that I just watched unfold in front of me? Well, listen, it's a 2v4. What people need to understand is that when you're down a man, you need to make a play. He can't just sit there and try to take predictable 1v1s. He's got to do something crazy, something the enemy won't expect. And that's exactly what he does. In a 2v3, now that he just created the 2v3, and those are very winnable, especially on a map like Breeze, because there's 80,000 angles to check. And instead of walking out like a normal person onto A site, he decides to take this psychopath route and finds an Omen not looking at him, because why would Omen be checking that angle? Because that's a really weird angle for you to get shot from. So JD by himself just turned a 2v5 into a 2v2. His teammate gets a pick on the tunnels guy, and then the rest is history. I'll show you. So Jet's playing up there. Yeah, he gets the kill on there, but guess what? JD's right there to trade him off like a good support player. So that was a really big round from JD. A really big round. Those rounds shouldn't be winnable, but guess what? He pulled them off. So on to the next round. Okay, so now I'm taking us over to defense. I think Cypher on defense is a little, I don't want to say lackluster, but I think Killjoy does a little bit better of a job. Well, I think Cypher does a little bit better of a job for offense and for information and whatnot, but they're both very strong. So one default that they like to run is to throw a Cypher tripwire up in hallway. And you might think to yourself, well, you're just giving up hallway control like that. Well, that's okay. I'll explain this later. But this tripwire, ends up being very strong. But on their pistol round, they decide to throw their camera here, which spots pretty deep in a tunnel and also helps him on B main. He has a cage here, right? So let's play this round out, and I'm going to show you how well JD uses his duelist to trade off his team. So a B execute is happening, obviously. The Jet dashes into the corner. Chewie gets the kill. Sorry if I mispronounced that. But as you can see, Vitality tries to isolate the Jet, but Cypher's back sight, getting ready to trade her off. So as soon as Jet starts making contact, he pops his cage, pops out of it, and trades off his Duelist, or attempts to trade him off. Duelist doesn't die, but now with this camera, it's a 3v2, and with the Cypher cam, especially on Breeze, where it takes you a long time to rotate from one part of the map to the other, the camera is something that's very valuable. And long story short, they end up winning the round, but Cypher's util is pretty decent on defense, especially when you're trading off your teammates like a good support player. So on to the next round. All right, so on this round, I want to talk about again how JD's using his teammates to his advantage. So he has this set up obviously for an A main push, which makes sense. Cypher, it's probably what she should prep for, and he has his camera watching double doors and whatnot, so it's pretty good. He has a cage there as well. But Asova's playing on site with him, right? And they decide not to push A main, but to instead push double doors, which is kind of awkward for Cypher. But you can still reposition yourself so you're still protected from A main, and you can sort of take this fight. Now, the Cypher's jiggling this. He's, you know, baiting for his Sova here, and he's trying to spray them a little bit, right? Sova shoots the arrow above the doorway, when she makes it very awkward to shoot, especially as you're coming onto site. And notice how they're all looking at Cypher, and they're not looking at the arrow, and they're not looking at the Sova. And JD does a very good job of baiting for his teammate there. Yeah, and they win the round. So, pretty cool. Okay, so now this round I'm going to talk about this Nest Tripwire and why it's so good. So some people might say, oh, you're giving up hallway. Well, it's not necessarily, it's true, but it's not necessarily that bad of a, it's not that bad. Because if you watch, this Nest Tripwire basically tells the guy on bridge, nobody's going to push you from here, you don't have to worry about it, right? So even though Viper's ulted here, they're getting ready for an A execute. The Sova drops down from bridge, and he's facing towards hallway, because he doesn't have to worry about over here. And if you notice, the Sova is able to watch hallway and not worry about getting pushed from bridge because this Sky's here. Watch how they fight together. So he's shooting at him. Sky is now shooting at him because this tripwire is here. They know they're not getting pushed from here, so this is never an issue. So this gives them the ability to isolate this fight before taking this fight, because this Viper wall is usually up, and if they don't push past this wall, they can isolate this fight up here. And also, something that's very cool that almost won them the round is the Cypher ult, by the way. Like I said, it's 6 ult points now, so it's way easier to pull off. And so that Cypher uses one of the bodies to ult this Viper. But I think if Jet is in a better spot, I think they get the kill and they secure that round a lot easier. And for 6 ult points, bro, like Cypher's ult is really good on this map. And it almost won them this round. You know, just had to have better positioning there. But yeah, NIP does a good job with Cypher. And on to the last round, I believe. All right, so on to the last round of the video. This game ends up going to a bunch of overtimes, but right now NIP is looking to do an A execute. So they have the Cypher cam. They were pinging towards hallway. He pinged this way, or he was watching this, so that now their Jet's pushed up and is in a really good spot. Tripwire is here, obviously, for flank. The wall goes up, and NIP's plan this round is to play for post plant. And notice how that earlier in the round, Cypher pings the Sova, right? So it pushes him off double doors, which allows the Jet to push up and work up a fair amount and gets all the way up here. Gets the kill. It's a 5v4. Really big, right? Cypher cages. Now, this is really big here, because as you notice, both of those cages are here, right? And this Sky was getting ready just to flash through that wall and try to make a play, right? But you can't do that when you have the Cypher cages here, because they know that you're pushing and they expect that to be there. So you really can't push that wall to try and take that space back. So Sky's pretty much denied right there. And they decided to play post plan here. Jet's in a really good spot to shoot anybody from hallway. They have Sova shock darts. They have Viper mollies and whatnot. Cypher cams, you've seen those used in post plans too to ping them off the bomb. And it's pretty soon this is going to turn into just an all-out gunfight as soon as these walls come down. So I'm going to skip forward a little bit. Oh, something else I want to point out. This Cypher tripwire is really important, because most times, if you're playing for mollies or whatnot, teams will push you to try and get you out of your lineup positions. But that tripwire there lets you know that they're pushing and that you need to get ready for a push. So they're not necessarily worried about that, and it gives them a lot more time just to spam the bomb, which they do. They kill one guy trying to defuse. They flash through. That tripwire is still there. I don't know if they ran into it, but no, they still haven't run into it. So they're just spraying and they're getting a bunch of spray kills. And while again this might look like luck, not necessarily. He had the tripwire up for a good reason. Helps them stop the push coming from this way, and he sprays the bomb. Smoke runs out in time, and JD clutches it up for his team again. 26 bomb on Cypher, ends up being a 30. Out for X's Duelist, and has a really good time. So Cypher works on Breeze, guys. things I forgot to mention is that there's really good camera spots off of water tank. I didn't really point that out, but they exist. Off water tank are really good, or off the wall early mid are really good, or off anywhere in this wall can spot nest and spot double door if you throw it high enough. Yeah, Cypher's just really good in this map, so give him a shot if you haven't yet. He's a lot of fun, a lot of info. Yeah, JD, for watching this, you played a hell of a good Cypher, and you made a really good video to make. So have a good one, guys. Cypher mains out there, try him out. Good night, goodbye. I love you all. Peace.